So does NLP work for sales? In a word, yes. And in this video, I'm going to break down how you want to think about it differently than anybody else is teaching, why most people sound like robots when they do it. And despite people being really good at NLP, a lot of times it does not help their sales. But after this short video, I think I'll be able to reframe, if you will, and shift your conceptions of what this is and how you can utilize it. By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Eli Wilde. I've been at this sales game for a long time, all-time top producer for Tony Robbins, blah, 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 3,400 presentations for Tony, hundreds, if not thousands more at this point on my own. So I've done well over 4,000 talks, 9 figures in sales. And yes, I used a lot of NLP. Back in the day, I remember I saw Tony at an event and I was mesmerized. And he's the one that introduced these NLP concepts to me at a deep level. In fact, he created a NLP course that I got to listen to, and I think it was from 1991. And Tony, from what I'm told, was sued by the NLP community because he was using some of their techniques, and then he changed it to NAC, neuro-associative conditioning. Now, around that time, when I got introduced to Tony's work, early 2000s, a lot of trainers were taking these ideas out there, trying to sound like Tony, trying to do what he does, some of them using his words and language and techniques word for word, but it wasn't authentic to them. Part of what made Tony powerful was his mastery, his connection, and his ability to utilize what was in the room, not to put people through a process, but to create. And to take an ism from Tony, there's 3 things that you want to become a master of. Now, if you want to understand NLP, and more importantly, how I do it, make sure you listen to this because this became, one of the foundations for understanding how to actually take these concepts and put them into your sales process again, without sounding like a weirdo. And so these 3 things are this. 1, pattern recognition. Recognizing patterns, like what's ultimately happening. And we're going to speak to that. What's happening in these conversations, not just what they say. Because a big part of communication, as they say in NLP, it's 7% words, 38% tonality, 55% body language. You probably heard that before, but we're going to break it down a little bit. So we've got pattern recognition, and then there's pattern utilization, like actually utilizing the patterns in a real context without, painting by numbers, but real. And then third is pattern creation. And so my hope for you is that you get to pattern creation. And wow, I could go on and on about, my take of that, but let me start by saying this, because I'm going to keep this video short. I saw Tony do what he does, and this guy's brilliant. Like, some people don't like him, whatever. Tony's the man. I consider him a close, I wouldn't say friend. I lived with his son and brother-in-law for a couple of years, and Tony's been like a second father to me. When my father passed, I reached out to Tony. Like, he is it. Some people, they say, like, don't meet your heroes. Meet this man if you get a chance to. It's not a commercial. I don't work there anymore, but he's just a lovely human being, and he's the real deal. And when I saw him, obviously I'm a big fan. I was massively infatuated with this guy. I wanted to be like him. And I think a lot of people do that. They see this trainer and they might do something great, or they want to be like them. And NLP, one of the techniques they actually teach is that of modeling. But the key as it relates to NLP, because this is powerful, like, don't reinvent the wheel. Find somebody who's done what you want to do and then just do what they do. So you don't have to go through all the trial and error. And that is part of his selling technique. You're kind of mesmerized by Tony, so you want to be him. And he did all these things. And now you get to turn decades into days and do the same thing. So that pattern of modeling is really great, but it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it does speed up your learning curve, but I think a lot of people do the thing to be like somebody and they lose their authentic essence. And so that's what happened to me, especially living with all these other Tony Robbins speakers. We all just wanted to be Tony. We're mesmerized by this guy, like infatuated with him. And I tell you, I would see other NLP trainers that were very different than Tony, but had been influenced, by NLP and wanted to provide that transformation. And I tell you, I think Tony's the best. He's the bee's knees. And Tony taught me one-on-one. He was my coach. And I went through Tony's NLP, and it was amazing. But I tell you, I learned more NLP watching really crappy NLP trainers. Here's what I mean. Like, have you ever seen a magician do a trick? And it's amazing. And you're like, oh my God, like David Copperfield, David Blaine, like they just do something. And you're like, what? I have no idea how they did that. And it's magical. That's what can happen in a really great transformational series of, communication, be it in a seminar or an event or a sales call. It's magical. And you're just like, what happened? You're just like out of your mind. So many elements were utilized there. And then I would see later on when I started studying NLP, I would see I was trained by some real masters, but then I would see other people that weren't that good. And maybe they had like a $5 seminar or like something, or this, you could tell it was new for them. They had the concepts, but it was new. Kind of like watching a magician do a trick, but now you see the feathers up the sleeve, you see the handkerchief hanging out. You're like, oh, he didn't quite get it right, and I see what he was trying to do. And so that fumbling, seeing what they were trying to do, and meeting some of these guys that were like trying to get rapport with me or touch me or use my words back to me, it was awkward, but I was like, oh, I see what you're trying to do. You're just not smooth. Just like when you see people that are beginning, like learning hypnotism, you could do it and learn all the language, all the Milton Ericksonian patterns, which is a big part of NLP. It's, speaking in contextual ambiguity, as you think about your sales calls and you think about the conversations that you're having that aren't quite connecting. So you're filling in the blanks. That's part of this conversational hypnosis, matching, mirroring, pacing, leading. All these techniques are there. And I found in studying it, watching other people, not just that were training, but in the class, I could see where people struggled. And it was me recognizing those patterns in other people. I was like, it's just not smooth. And this is a line from the Navy SEALs: what's slow is smooth and what's smooth is fast. And so I think when you slow down and really think about why you're saying what you're saying, as opposed to having an outcome of using a technique, by the way, this is NLP right here, having an outcome to your communication. If you've been to my training, we go deep in that. Even if you hang out with your mom, my mom's got dementia now, not doing so well, easy for me to get frustrated. But my outcome is not to make my mom do something right. It's to make her feel heard and appreciated and to make sure she feels safe. Because of that outcome, it changes my behavior. If your outcome in sales is to get a sale, well, that's going to change your behavior. It's going to create a line of behavior in these communications that's not going to connect and not going to get you your outcome. I got really smart after a few thousand presentations. I finally wised up and I realized that all decisions, all actions are preceded by thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And so the target or the outcome of my communication, which is a big part of NLP, having an outcome to what you're doing. The outcome of my communication became to produce states or feelings, to put thoughts in people's minds. One of my friends described NLP as this: it's the use of descriptive language or very carefully crafted questions to put thoughts and images in someone's mind. And having any strong thought or repeated thought or unique thought will do something because of the novelty, because of the intensity, will do something to the feeling in the person. And so the target of my communication would be thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And I knew that I could do a lot of that by providing an experience. So information doesn't change our lives, experiences do. And if somebody is stuck in their life or their business, like they're just not moving forward, well, they've often had a trauma or a past experience that created a belief about time or money or success or relationship or some way of being. And so they have an experience that has shifted them into a disempowered state. And through this conversation, my outcome is to be an experience, to be someone who creates a context in this container of communication to produce a different state. I call this a buying state. And I know that if the target of my communication, I got really clear after years of doing this. I was like, well, if people are thinking, feeling, believing this, they're not going to buy. But if they're thinking, feeling, believing this, they're going to buy. And so the target of my communication became that. And it'll be slightly different for your avatar, what they need to think about you, themselves, time, what they need to think about money, what they need to think about who they are in relationship to their partner or spouse, who they are or who they want to be in their company. These identities and being able to shift them into that state will get people to produce optimal behavior, be it you're coaching somebody in life or you're trying to condition them to be the buyer, to be that person. You need to realize this: all decisions are state dependent. So the target of my communication would be, well, how can I produce these states in people? And so NLP, neuro, nervous system, language, L, language, P, programming, neuro-linguistic programming, nervous system programmed through language. Tony changed it, of course, to fit his thing, and he evolved it quite a bit. NAC, neuro, nervous system again. Associative, creating an association. Conditioning somebody through our language and our way of being. And, just like conditioning your muscles, you go over and over again, and we got to condition people in this conversation. We got to condition those states in people. And so if you see yourself not as a salesperson, if you see yourself not as a speaker or motivator, but a state inducer, and you're clear about those states, and you know how to reverse engineer the patterns of focus, meaning, and physiology to create that safe space, to take away somebody's certainty about what they're currently doing and get them into a more resourceful state as it relates to you allowing them to take a new action moving into your product, service, or idea, i.e. a sale. So that's what we're ultimately doing here. And so while there's thousands of techniques, we can teach you stuff all day long. I'm actually going to create a lead magnet. If it's not here immediately, it'll be there very shortly underneath one of my favorite frames. So when we coach, we coach Hermosi's company or, Jeremy Miner now, it's a lot of the frames we install into these people's events and seminars and things like that, or even sales calls. Well, Jeremy just sent me a text. I think we got like a 24% bump in his last event of closing. His event before that, we had 71% of the people buy. Jeremy's brilliant, by the way. He's a very good friend, and we helped him out. He's helped me too. But we install these frames, and we can help anybody close more just by installing some of these frames. You might not recognize it, but I did some of them to you in this little video. I'm unconsciously competent in them. Maybe in another video, I'll break down some of the things I do. Oh, by the way, at Hermosi's event last year, instead of him doing the repitch, I did the repitch, and I pulled an additional $1 million out of an audience that it was already pitched twice. So if you want to see that, comment Hormozi, or no, comment 1 million hour, something like that. Just comment, give me the training below, and I'll make sure we get that to you. But also, my 10 favorite frames, we made a little PDF. We'll give those to you. But as far as this NLP thing, if you want to study it, I tell you, I studied with so many people. Most of it was garbage. A couple of people were masters, but I looked more at how they lived their life. And if I could give you one thing as it relates to your sales, your ability to use NLP for sales, realize that you're a state inducer. And as a state inducer, what we want to do is create different associations. And so even for you, if I'm speaking to you, I could say something really challenging to you, and you might not like me. Or I could say, hey, I want you to think of this like a training session. And if we go to the gym and I'm your trainer and you do the easy thing, you're not going to grow. It'd be easy for you and for me just to do the comfortable thing, but your comfort zone is what got you stuck in this place. So in order to serve you, is it okay if I say some things to you, I challenge you, and I push you a bit in a way that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable so that you can walk away from this conversation a stronger person? Is that okay? So what am I doing? I'm getting permission to challenge you, which is usually not a good thing, but I framed it in your best interest so that you can become stronger. What are you going to say to that? No? Of course you're going to say yes. But I framed it in your best interest, so I contextually reframed the meaning that you're going to have in your mind as to me calling you out or telling you to make a decision now. And so that way you'll feel like I'm doing it for you, not to you. We can change all of it within the frame. And so really understanding framing is key. I did a course a few years ago, and a bunch of famous 8-figure people signed up for it. You would know their names. They found me, and then so we started to do events where I would teach this stuff live. That was about 2-3 years ago, and now we do them every other month here in Miami. It's a live training, a speaker training. We just had bunch of famous people come. So they're small. If you're interested in something like that, just follow, comment, if you want the event. So a lot of stuff we'll do. We'll make sure that we start putting links down below. I'm new to the YouTube game, so forgive me if none of this makes sense, but hopefully you got some value out of this video. And if there's things that you'd like to know more about, I'm just putting stuff out there. I'm new to the YouTube game, new to the marketing game, really. So market doesn't know who we are, but we're trying to fix that. And I can't do it without you. So comment, subscribe if you dig this stuff, or just subscribe or ask a question, or give some feedback. Saying, Eli, I hated this. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm here just to serve you. And if I can serve you better, let me know. That's it for now. Much love. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.